Hello and welcome on this last video about Hermod. In this video I'm going to talk about the settings. So to access the settings I need to go in track mode and press Y. There are 4 lists of settings: clock setting, MIDI channel, MIDI through, and CV input settings. I'm going to start with the clock settings. You can select the clock source, so either internal, one of the MIDI port, MIDI, host, and slave, and one of the analog inputs, CV, A, B, C, and D. When you select one of the analog inputs, Hermod internal clock will be synchronized to that output, but it won't fire each step. That means that you can, for example, use the swing effect internally on Hermod with an analog clock and it will still work. The second parameter is the CV reset parameter. When you're using an external clock, or not actually, you can set one of the 4 inputs, CV, A, B, C, and D, to act as a reset of the clock. If you don't use one of the input as a CV reset and use an analog clock, you can still reset it by pressing play. And CV clock division, usually analog clocks are quarter notes, so by default it's on quarter notes, but you can change it. So if your analog clock is faster, like 1/8 of a note, or slower, 1 second or 1 full note, you can change it there. And you can also use one of the gate output, one of the 8 gate output, to be a fixed clock. Like here, it's a 1/4 clock on gate 1. In every sequence, you're going to have the clock output from gate 1. And you can also change the speed of that clock. Maybe you want to use Hermod as a clock multiplier, clock divider. You can still do that. You're not limited to that clock output. To do that, you need to use one of the track, go to step, choose the zoom level, and then input all steps. And this output will be a clock in the end. So if I go to this one and input notes everywhere here, well, this could act as a clock in track 3. So I'm going to go back here, and this is it for the clock settings. Next is the MIDI channel. So MIDI channel, quite straightforward. You can choose the MIDI channel for every track, 1 to 8, and there's also the active track. So as I told you earlier, the active track channel is the MIDI channel that is going to be controlling the selected track. So if I go back here, you can watch the LEDs on the right. I'm pressing my keyboard here. You can't hear anything because there's nothing hooked up here. But this is the channel that controls the active track. And all of the other channel control one particular track. Doesn't matter which one is active. Of course, this MIDI channel can come from any input. So the channel 1 from MIDI, from host, and from device are handled the same internally. So there's only 16 channels here. Next up, the MIDI through. So this is the place where you can set up how the MIDI ports act. So you can send everything from the MIDI into the MIDI out, everything from the MIDI into the host, and so on and so forth. So you choose the MIDI routing here. Say you want to send all the coming message from host to the device. It's like a MIDI through matrix, kind of. I'm going to go back, and the last one in CV input settings. So it looks the same as a MIDI channel. You have the active track and all the tracks, but here the parameters are CV gate AB. So this is in case you want to use an analog sequencer with the CV in A and the gate in B. Then CV gate CD, same with C and D. Then modulation A, B, C, and D. This is if you want to record a raw CV from A, B, C, and D in a modulation track. And it's the same for every 8 track. Then we have the quantized note, one of the last parameters. So when you're using an analog sequencer, sometimes say the middle C, it's not going to be 0 or 1 volt. There's going to be a small offset. If you want to record that offset, you can keep quantized note off. then the offset will be recorded internally as a pitch bend message. If you want the node to be quantized, like if you have 1.01 volt and you want it to be quantized to 1 volt, then you can activate the quantize. And last thing, the CV input range. When you're using a CV input to record modulation or to record, like to modulate one of the effects in the mod matrix, sometimes your CV input modulation is going to be limited to only positive voltage. So it's pointless to have -5 to +5 range in that case. So you can change that range to 0 to +5, or you can keep it to -5 and +5 if you have a modulation source that can handle it. So that's it for the settings. If you have any question, you can go and ask them in our forum or ask them in the comments of this video, and we'll try to answer it as best as possible. We also released the manual on our website, and you're more than welcome to read it. It's a little bit more thorough, and you won't have to deal with my awful accent. Thank you for watching.